All right, drone video for track 25, looking west. Property is on the right. That's the easement road there. That walnut tree has a sign that says track 25 if we can get to it. There we go. So yeah, we're at the south, or I guess the southwest side of the property on the easement road. Southern portion of the property is an open meadow. It slopes downhill, transitions to timber, rises up again. We've got a large level flat ridge, and then as you keep going it drops down steeply and actually directly borders Bryant Creek along its north side. And this looks like actually a pretty lengthy video, so we're probably going to see the whole works right up to Bryant Creek. There's a power line that goes across the property, and you'll see that in a moment. There it is right there. So that does cross over the property. So you've got that open area. If you're a hunter, obviously that makes a good shooting lane. Looking westerly, property on the right side of the easement road. So we're drifting basically northerly. You can see how the property slopes to, oh, here we go. Okay, so we're at the lower left corner of track 25. The orange squiggly lines are where we drove one day when we were out there. We had the tracking turned on MapRight. The first blue line you see is just a little seasonal creek bed toward the west side of the property. Bryant Creek is way up on the north end of the property. So you see that power line that goes northeast, actually drops down before that big meadow toward the northeast side, and then that large meadow on the northeast side is mostly on the property. Bryant Creek on the north side of the meadow. And I think we've got a topo map in a moment here. Pretty sure we do. There we go. So from the easement road, property slopes down. You've got that little seasonal creek bed. It rises back up, and then you have that large flat ridge in about the middle of the property. So for a big potential building site, that might be ideal. You can drive to it in a four-wheel drive. We did, but could certainly improve that driveway if you wanted to. But as you go northeast from there, it slopes down steeply, like basically a drop for a portion of it. And then you've got the lower meadow and you've got Bryant Creek. Whoop, there we go. So let's take a look at this and see what we can see. Gorgeous, gorgeous area. We're looking westerly. Way off in the distance, 2-3 miles, you can see the Cedar Gap Conservation Area. And that's actually the headwaters of Bryant Creek. On the other side of the easement road and down a couple hundred feet, you have the original farmhouse and a couple buildings. So obviously power and phone are very close. So now looking northeast on the property, that power line you see basically goes through runs with the property on the northwest side, but all that timber that we're looking at on the right side of the power line is on the property as well. And now we're getting closer to that big level ridge. As we drift northeasterly. So right down below us is that big level ridge, which might be an awesome spot to open up a building site or a campsite. See how that power line slopes down steeply right there. You do not want to take a vehicle or even a four-wheeler or side-by-side over that, because there's at least one portion where it just drops. So be aware of that. And then you've got that lower meadow, and there's Bryant Creek right there, which borders the north side of the property. Bryant Creek is gorgeous. It's generally very clear because it is spring-fed. It's an extremely popular creek in the Ozarks. It flows, I guess, southerly or southeasterly, and it ends up in Norfolk Lake, which is mostly in Arkansas, a little bit in Missouri. And I think we're trying to get down and get a better look at Bryant Creek at the property here. You've got all kinds of timber on this property. There's actually some big timber on this property. Right down by the creek, you probably have some monstrous sycamore trees. Let's see if we can pick any of them out. The sycamores are a little lighter shade of green generally. I see a big one on the other side of Bryant Creek. I'm sure there are some on this property as well. There's quite a few medium-sized ones that you can kind of see on the property, but the sycamores, their upper half, the trunks are like a bright white because the bark peels off. That's what they do. They're made to do that, and then it exposes the bright white trunk of the tree, and it's really, really pretty. Big gravel bar over here by the property. And then looking basically westerly, and now we're just kind of checking out the general area. That meadow that you see is on the other side of Bryant Creek, so that's not on the property. Not that particular meadow, although there is that lower meadow coming up in the lower left that's on the property. But to get to that lower meadow, you'd basically have to walk down that hillside. I don't think you're going to get a vehicle down there unless you do a lot of work with a big piece of equipment. I believe what we're doing here is just trying to get a clear shot of the creek, but it's so heavily wooded down there that that's not easy to do. There's a little bit of Bryant Creek right there. This is definitely one of the bigger tracts out here at Panther Hollow. The deer and the turkey, but the deer in this area are amazing. The turkey are great as well, but I mean they tend to get overshadowed by the white-tailed deer because that's kind of the big deal, I guess, for most people. Some people go more for turkey than deer when they're hunting. But on this tract, I mean, you've got the open meadows, you've got the water frontage, loaded with hardwood trees, especially the oak trees. That's one of the main sources of food for the deer are the acorns from the oak trees. So now as we look, I guess kind of southwesterly, we're looking way back toward the southwest side of the property. So that triangular piece of meadow is mostly on the property. The majority of that is. Really a gorgeous tract. A lot of different options for what you want to do out here. Obviously all the tracks have some type of setbacks, from the easement road. We'd have to check on the interactive map. It has a measurement function, but I think there'd be a portion of that first meadow coming off the easement road where you potentially could do a campsite or a building site if you wanted to, and it would be far enough off the setback. But I mean, if we were out here creating a site, we would probably do it on that big wide ridge that we're coming up on right now. I mean, that gives you a lot of level area. It gives you the potential for some stellar views to the north or south, depending on how you situate it and which trees you remove. It's extremely private, so we're flying southwesterly toward where we started, and we're going over that big wide ridge that we just talked about. So heavily wooded with mostly mature hardwood timber from what we're seeing here. Really don't see any pine trees or cedar trees. And as we head back toward the easement road, we're sloping down. We've got that little seasonal creek, and actually it just occurred to me that we discovered an ancient rock wall in that little valley by the seasonal creek, just on the south side. So it would seem that at some point someone had cleared all the way down that valley for pasture. Some of it remained as pasture, and some of it grew back up into timber. But when they used to clear for pasture, of course, they would have to remove the rocks, and they would essentially create rock walls at the edges of the pasture. I think we have a video of that if you check the listing page of that rock wall. It's pretty cool. We're looking toward the sun now, which is why the trees appear somewhat dark. And I believe here we're just kind of checking out some of the timber, seeing what we can see. We've got about a minute left in the video, so we're just hanging out toward the southwest side apparently, which is fine. Very private, toward the end of the easement road. We're just a few miles out of Mansfield, south of Mansfield, and about probably 10 miles north of Ava, Missouri. Mansfield is right on Highway 60. So when you get to Highway 60, you can go east to Mountain Grove, which is the next kind of decent-sized town with the super Walmart and all that stuff. If you go west, you'll hit Seymour, and then a few other small towns, and then you'll hit Springfield, Missouri. From Highway 60, it's about 50 miles to the west to Springfield. Mounded dirt from when they widened out that road. Nice big tract, gorgeous property. If you have any questions on this, you can give us a call, you can shoot us an email. We love to talk about properties, so if this one's available, we'll chat all day with you about tract 25. If it's not available, then we'll let you know what we have or what might be coming up. So yeah, get a hold of us. We would love to hear from you.